Hello, everybody. Round 2. My name is Kathleen Burns. My friends call me Katie, and we're here to talk about what's new in Mathcad Prime 6.0. I don't think this should take too long, but we are going to have it recorded. You guys will all get a recording of this. There is also an attachment, the data sheet for Mathcad Prime 6. So all of you guys should have that available as well. So let's go ahead and kick it off. For those of you guys who are not familiar with TriStar, we are a company that helps other companies adopt software and systems and processes to help enable brand scheme, PLM, product lifecycle management. There's a lot of pieces that go into it. The main pieces are, well, we've got Mathcad, we've got Creo parametric, Windchill, which is the data management side of things. And so we are PTC's largest reseller in North America, and we've got our team scattered across North America. But today we're going to focus on Mathcad Prime 6.0. So I'll quickly list out what's new in 6.0, and then I'm going to go into a little bit of a deeper dive on plotting. I took a little bit of a hiatus from Mathcad. I'm mainly in the Windchill side these days. And plotting that I'm going to be showing you was introduced in Mathcad Prime 5.0. But some of you guys haven't even made it that far yet either. So I thought I would take a little bit of a deeper dive into the plotting after we discuss what's new in 6.0. But those of you on the call who are not familiar with Mathcad at all, it's a really cool tool that allows you to document your math in natural math notation. So you see the square root symbol, like you learned it in 6th grade. Right? You don't need to type in any code for square root, or if we're using Excel, it's to the power of 1/2. And now we're hoping the reader understands that that's what the square root is. But here you see the actual square root symbol, you see the integral symbol. So the natural math notation, I think, is very helpful. But then you have the ability to document your math and able to capture and document your IP. So I did previously do a Mathcad 101 demo to show you guys the basics of Mathcad. You guys could find that on TriStar's website, www.tristar.com. We have all of our past recordings on that website as well, if you're interested. But what's new in Mathcad Prime 6? Quickly, here's the list, our little snapshot here. I've got a slide pretty much for each one. You can customize the margins, including headers and footers. We now have Spellcheck. You can add hyperlinks directly into your worksheets. There's some usability enhancements that we'll discuss. You have the ability to, although there's this new chart option that was introduced in Prime 5.0, you can now export that image if needed. There's a new symbolic calculation engine, and there's some performance enhancements. So as far as customizing your margins, if you go to the Document tab within the Mathcad interface, we have a Margins pull-down menu, and they've got some very quick, standard, narrow, wide options here. And at the very bottom, you can hit Custom Margins, and you can type in the values specifically that you want to utilize. They've also conveniently added in this legacy option. If you are still using Mathcad 15, maybe even Mathcad 14, and you're importing or migrating some of those documents into Mathcad Prime, there is that legacy option that you have the ability to utilize as well. Spellcheck. One of my favorite things that they introduced into Mathcad Prime 6. The last several versions, anytime I did a demo, I would always open up this CAM design finish document and just kind of show you guys, look how well we can document. our worksheets. Okay, it's almost like documenting a program. I don't like programming, not one of my favorite things to do, but I can do it. But I like to stand on the shoulders of giants. Anytime there's a comment or any kind of documentation that's describing the code that came above or below it, I always find it very, very helpful. And that's the exact same thing that we have the ability to do here with our Mathcad worksheets. But this entire time I have been showing this worksheet, I've had all of these spelling errors in it that I didn't even recognize. And so I took a quick screenshot, added that to our presentation, and you can see it's Spellcheck in its finest form, as it always is everywhere else. I grew up in a time where Spellcheck has always been around, to my detriment. So I'm probably one of the worst spellers out there, and so I really, really appreciate the fact that this is now included in Mathcad Prime. I've been talking about how important it is for us to document our worksheets. You can bring in text. Well, now we can expand that text. We can expand it to include hyperlinks. Okay, so if you were to type in a URL, I just typed in www.tristar.com, it would automatically recognize it as a hyperlink. Okay, but we also have, so we can link to a web page. We can link to an email client. We have the ability to link to a file location, which I can already see the benefits. You know, if we have a repository in a shared network folder that we want to reference, we don't have to pull that document into our Mathcad worksheet. We can just quickly link to it as needed. Okay, so we can greatly expand the details of our worksheet. There's some usability enhancements. We have the find and replace, which we've always had. With the last few versions, at least, we've had the find and replace. It's found on the lower bar of your Mathcad interface. But now with Mathcad Prime 6, we have the ability to find and replace individual subscripts. And we can find and replace individual portions of an existing identifier. Okay, so some of you guys might find that helpful. And then as far as printing enhancements go, one of the things that we have the ability to do is if you draw a pick box and select sections of the worksheet, you can print that previously selected portion that you have highlighted. Okay, so it's not all or nothing. I can print just a subset, whether it's a selection because I highlighted it, drawing a pick box, or if it's a specific page or current page, etc. There is a new symbolic calculation engine inside of Mathcad Prime. I'm not 100% knowledgeable on the new algorithm that's behind the scenes. There is a help section article that you have access to within Mathcad Prime. If you don't have access to this, let me know. You know, we can definitely, I can send out a PDF of this page if needed. So there is a new symbolic engine. If you were to open up an old worksheet, whether it was created in any older version, when you open it up in Prime, by default, it's going to use this new symbolic engine. All right, so I want you to take a look at it as you open up your new files if you're doing any kind of symbolic math. Let me define, let's go through symbolic math real quick. Let's go to our worksheet. Symbolic math is when you're evaluating not numerically. So there's no rounding, okay? It'll give you the inverse of cosine, okay? It's not going to give you a number. It's going to give you whatever the value of the inverse of cosine is, okay? So that's what the symbolic math is. And so now there's a new engine. Take a look at it. Open up your files in Prime 6. If it works good and it looks good and it's still correct, move forward with it. moving forward in future releases, it's only going to be exclusively using this new Symbolic engine. But if you notice that there's any errors or discrepancies, one, let PTC know, because they need to resolve this issue. But two, you do have the ability to go back to the legacy Symbolic engine. From the calculation tab, underneath the calculation options, you can go to this legacy Symbolic engine. All right, so this will be going away in future releases, but I want you guys to be aware of this piece of it. There's some performance enhancements. This is just one of the bullets that what's new in Prime 6. You know, computers are getting better, hardwares are getting better. We're able to take advantage of all of the resources that the hardware provides. Previously, we weren't able to use 64-bit versions. Now we are. So we're able to, you know, get some performance enhancements out of that. So large, complex worksheets that may have taken a little bit of time to regenerate as we are making changes to different values or variables. Those are just a lot, they regenerate a lot quicker. They're just a lot smoother to interact with. So that's nice. And what I'm going to be doing shortly is I'm going to be going into our plotting capabilities that was introduced in Prime 5.0. However, now in 6.0, you have the ability to save this out as an image if you maybe want to put that image in a PowerPoint or a presentation or something similar. All right, so let's go into plotting. Spend several minutes here. Again, this was new in Prime 5.0. It wasn't new specifically in Prime 6.0, but I took a little bit of a hiatus and did not do any Mathcad 5.0 demos. So it's new to me, so I'm including it in this demo. We've always had these quick plots, sometimes called native plots. These are the plots that have always been there. And so if I wanted to, let's just define a function. Let's define f of x to be the sine of x. Okay. Well, if I wanted to create a quick plot, I would go to the plots tab and insert a 2D plot. If an XY plot, if I hover over it, you can see Control 2 is the hotkey for that particular plot. And so for the x axis, we'll put in our independent variable and we'll plot the function against the y-axis, and you can see we have our plot. This is a quick plot. When you can see our domain is automatically from -10 to 10. We have our trace. If I were to select it, all of the options appear in the plot toolbar, enable. So they're grayed out when it's not selected, but I can come in here and I can change the trace thickness if I want to. We can make it a little thicker. We can change the color if we want to. But what I cannot do is I cannot bring in any titles. There's no legend. I can't bring in any guidelines. There's no second y-axis capabilities. And so what we've done, or what PTC has done, is they've added in the capability of bringing in this chart component. Okay, and it is an embedded object. So if I were to double click on this, you'll see that you'll get this pop-up window. Now I'm not plotting anything yet, okay, but you can see this pop-up window comes up, and I have the ability to manipulate the look and feel of this entire chart. So do I want the chart background to be a specific color? And when we're talking about the background, we're talking about the outer border, okay? And you can see that the inside is like a lighter orange in this case, all right? So the chart background is behind the chart, okay? Do we want a chart border? Do we want to put a border? What kind of line style? Solid line, dotted line? Do we want to manipulate the thickness? Okay, and then we also have the ability to bring in these weighted corners if you want. And you have some preset values, but you can type in anything and it would give you those weighted corners. So if that's something you're interested in for the look and feel of your plot, you can definitely add those in. Okay, then we have the plot area down here at the bottom. That would be inside the plot. All right, so, you know, I like the white, maybe opacity of 100%. And that would give us the white background. And then do I want a border between the white and the red? That's what this little area portion is. Okay, so we have the ability to bring in a plot border if needed. And then we have our legend. We can bring in a legend. We have our title. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to close this and you'll see the updates to this chart. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and we have this chart component up at the top. I can right click and we can insert our x-axis expression and our y-axis expression if needed. Okay, so if x equals x, and let's have y equal, let's do the sine of x divided by x. Okay, and you can see we have our sync function here. And if I were to double click on this chart, you can see I have an additional tab over here for our trace, okay? And I could have multiple traces on this plot. You would have a tab for each one, okay? So if I were to, one of the things I have learned in the past is if you have multiple traces, it's a lot easier to work your way from the right back to the left. Okay, kind of work your way. It's just a little bit easier to manage. You can manipulate the look and feel of this particular trace. And then you kind of, it just gets, it's a little less confusing as you work your way back. So now I'm working on the y-axis. Okay, I just selected y. You can kind of see there's a little marquee along the y-axis. It's just a preview. When I select x, you can see now x has a little marquee highlighted around it. Okay, so what do I want? Do I want to add tick marks on the y-axis? Okay, we have grid lines. If I want to add the grid lines, we can turn those on and we can affect the look and feel of what these grid lines look like. We have a title for the y-axis if we so choose. Okay, right now it's just y-axis title by default. If I don't want a title, I don't have to have one. And then we have this setup tab where we have the ability to manipulate the range. Okay, what values do we want to see here? Let's go to our X line. What's our tick mark? Also, I didn't show this on the y-axis. Here we have our tick mark values. Okay, maybe I want them in bold or not, but we have the ability to manipulate the size of these values. And if we want to bring them in at an angle, we can definitely do that. Okay, so you can just kind of manipulate the look and feel of your chart as you see fit. We have, do we want to show grid lines in here? We have a title opportunity. And then we have the chart as the whole. Okay, so if we wanted to bring in, let's say, a legend, and where do we want that legend to reside? Do I want it at the bottom? Maybe I want it outside of the chart. Okay. And what's the title? Well, let me see. The legend. I mean, we can name this. If I go to, let me see. What's the name? Sync function. Okay, so this is where you can label what this actually is. You can say sine of x divided by x if you'd like. Okay, it's up to you on what this is. As far as the chart title, you know, I can call this let's call it standard response. We want it at the top or maybe above the chart. Okay. I'm going to go back to our curve. Let's call this nominal data. Okay. So what they've done with this whole thing is they've really closed the gap between Prime and Mathcad 15. There was some, these charting capabilities were available in Mathcad 15, and a lot of people have not made that move up to Mathcad Prime because not all of the functionality has made it in. So for the charting capabilities, they've really closed that gap. But they've also included additional functionality that you were not able to do inside of Mathcad 15. I mean, you can just really make this fancy, right? So let's say the plotting area is a solid color. Let me see, we already did that. Let me see. You have the ability to change the color. They do have a gradient in here. You know, if you wanted to change the background, you also have the ability to do that with the actual plot as well, if you want. Okay, so the area right now is a solid color in blue, but we can do gradient, get kind of fun with it. Okay, I'm happy with that look. So I'll go ahead and close this out. And there's our chart. And you do have the ability to minimize your inputs. So all you see is the chart. You can size it up, size it down as needed. But every time in previous versions I would show plotting, I would get asked about the title. Where can we add the title? And we always had to fake it out with a note and kind of place it right in that spot. And, you know, hopefully you don't move anything because then it wouldn't move together. So this is a quick showcase on plotting. It's found on the math page, chart component. Just double clicking on that area brings up everything that you have to come in here and really format the look and feel of that. Okay, this is looking a little, you know, non-conventional with the green and the blue and the pink background, but I just kind of wanted to come in here and show you guys some of the different options that were available with the charting. Nice, quick, and simple. Okay. That's what I've got today for our presentation. I wanted to show you that if you go to TriStar's website, you do have the ability to see previous recordings on many different topics. If you're not just interested in Mathcad, if you're interested in Creo Parametric or Windchill and many different aspects of Windchill, you can go to our website and find all of that information. And at this time, do we have any questions? Go ahead and opening up the question area. Okay, I think I see a little handout here. Okay, I don't see any questions. Let me give you guys my email address just in case. All right, let's go to the top here. My email address is kathleen.burns@tristar.com. If you guys have any issues in the future, downloading or installing Mathcad Prime, licensing issues, reach out. We can help. Okay. All right. Thank you. You guys have a wonderful day.